Welcome back to the final instalment of the September reset. This thing saying we've restarted this, so I'm still going to repeat myself. When we did the first one of these, I had no lights on, and now I have to have both my overhead and my lamp on. And it looks very dark outside, but we are also starting a little later because I have a surprise visitor, which is nice. So they are now being shown the treehouse by the small person, while we have our catch up. So tonight we are looking at yearly goal checking. So we talked about this in June as well, sort of doing it when we did the mid-year check-in. But we're at that final sort of slog now, that last little slog. Makes it sound like it's been a hard year. Okay, maybe it has. But that final little slog of the year, the last little bit to get through. We should be enjoying our lives, shouldn't we? We shouldn't be getting through it or slogging through it. But some years it feels more like that, and that's okay. So we are going to be going through our yearly goals, putting in some benchmarks, putting in some plan of action to make sure that we get the ones done that we're going to discuss in a minute. Get the ones done that we want to or need to or think we can by the end of the year, without getting to the end and having not achieved certain ones and feeling really pants. Because we want to use goal motivation when as we achieve things, we're going to feel more motivated and more inspired to achieve the next ones. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves with like these crazy lists and then we don't achieve anything and then we feel terrible, and it's just we end up in this little like cycle of shame. We don't want any cycle of shame. We want to be realistic and kind to ourselves, and life throws up things. Crikey. Life throws up things that we weren't expecting when we wrote our goals list. We might be thinking we were going to stay in the county we were living in, and then we moved counties and completely moved areas and moved your kids' school, and everything changed. You just don't know what's around the bend. So for me, obviously the move is one of the big ones. But my partner got really, really ill in February, and that just like changed everything. So they thought they thought it was lung cancer at one point, and luckily it was just pneumonia. I don't think I'd ever say that. Luckily it was just pneumonia. But yeah, he had really bad pneumonia. And now we've got to be more careful this winter as well, and I think it's a good couple of winters afterwards they're more susceptible. So things do change. It doesn't matter how well you plan and how sort of careful you are to not overwhelm your goals list. Things change and things go differently. So first and foremost, we're going to do that thing that we do in the weekly reset. We are going to check, are there any that no longer serve us? Because that's a nice easy one to do. It's having a look through and being like, oh yeah, no, that wasn't, I don't know why I put that in. I've looked at it every month throughout the year or every week throughout the year, and I've still gone, I'm not inspired by it. I'm not motivated by it. And even if you took a look at the why originally that you came up with, you're like, oh, I think I was kidding myself a little bit. Yeah, obviously wasn't as strong enough. So those are the nice easy ones to get rid of and be like, no, this is it. This is the final stretch. I want to focus my energies on all the other ones. I'm going to let those ones go. And it could also be that they don't represent how you want to show up in the world. So it wasn't that you made a mistake in the first place. It's that your perspective on something has changed. So it could be that you've transitioned to being super eco, and one of your goals would be really uneco. Eco-friendly, and you're like, actually, yeah, no, that now clashes with a value that I hold dear, or some knowledge that I've acquired. It may be that you were going to be doing one of those goals with somebody, and you've realised that now actually you don't want to work with that person, or that person is no longer able to do it, and it's not something you can do alone, for example. It might not be that they were just wrong per se, but I swear, like every day we wake up, we're a slightly different person. Sometimes with every Taylor Swift song, we become a slightly different person. With every episode on the TV, or was it episode of Gilmore Girls, I become a slightly different person. So it could be that we've just changed and evolved and things. So I think it's really important to not beat yourself up when it turns out that a goal is no longer right. And even if you had a really strong why and it felt really right at the beginning, and say, okay, doesn't matter, it's okay. The next one that I like to consider is the over 60s rule. Not over 60s only, and not that kind of one. But which of the goals are over 60% completed? Over the summer, we do slow down. So that's why it's not whatever, what would we be? 70%, 3 months left, 70%. I tend to find that we are a lot better at completing more towards the end. So I think as long as we're 60% completed, we've got a fair chance of getting there by the end of the year. If you've got any that are under 60%, strongly consider either amending them so that there's not so much to do to achieve it. So it might be that you wanted to climb 25 mountains this year. If it's under 60% completed, you've done less 60% or less of 25 mountains, you might just reduce the number. Might not be that you need to get rid of it completely. You might be like, okay, a few things happen, that's fine. I'm going to adjust this goal and make it 15 mountains because I've only got 2 left to do then, or whatever it might be. I don't know if there's that many like hiking mountains in the world. I don't travel. So so it might be, that you are just going to make the slight adjustments to the ones, any ones that are come in under that 60%. Or it could be that you are going to move them on to next year, or you could simply decide that I'm happy with where it is. I'm going to leave it. I'd be like, yeah, no, actually, I'm happy with my 10 mountains. I'm just going to leave it there. That's fine. And it's about making that conscious choice. We're not giving up. I think we get that drummed into us a lot, that we're like, oh, it's giving up and push through and stuff. But if you are making a conscious choice and evaluating who you are in this moment with what the year has thrown at you, with what you know maybe you've got coming up, maybe you've got things coming up that you hadn't predicted at the beginning of the year, and that's changed things. I mean, cost of living crisis will have changed things for most people in one way or another as well. If you're in the UK, but I believe lots of countries have had similar issues this year. So don't put that pressure on yourself to feel like I've got to slog my guts out for the rest of the year to achieve these things. You're a different person when you wrote it, and as long as you're making that conscious decision to be like, I'm not giving up, I'm making amendments to my list and to what I thought I was going to do. And like I said, you can literally just move things on to next year. You be like, it's fine, it's one for next year. It can even, and this is why when we went through the Trello board, I had a couple of years ahead lists that I can just move stuff forward to. And it's not because I'm actively planning 5 years ahead, but I have my goals for 2023. I have a little list for goals for 2024, 2025, 2026. I think that's between 3 and 5. I can't actually remember off the top of my head. And it's, if I see a poster or like an advert, I guess they're not really posters anymore, for an event like a vegan camp out. If I saw something like that, but it's not on until 2026, I might put that onto my list. I wouldn't actively seek out what I'm going to go and do in that year. But I also use it if I was trying to do something this year that isn't quite going to happen. I might say, I put a lot of work into it this year, and I'd like a little break from it for next year. So I won't put it onto next year's list. I'll put it onto the year after. And I know some people love that like 5-year plan, 10-year plan. But life changes way too quickly. For most people, for that to realistically happen on that deep level of setting like your goals with like a proper framework and a proper deadline, and with all your steps and making them SMART goals and all of that kind of thing, like doing that for like 5 years and ahead, I personally don't think is realistic. I think too much can change. But being like, okay, I didn't quite achieve this one this year, I would still like to do it again. I'm going to have a year's rest, and I'll put it on the list for that year. So it's somewhere safe for you to review when you can, like at a suitable time, instead of putting pressure on yourself to be like, right, crikey, it feels like I've slogged at this goal for 2 years now because I've done it back to back. By having that little break, that can be the reboot that you needed to make that one happen. It could be that you look at it and go, actually, I'm gonna try to achieve this X that will help me support goal Y in the future year. So stick with the mountain analogy. You wanted to climb 25 mountains this year. You've discovered that you don't know anything about hiking mountains. So you decide that next year you're going to have a goal around learning how to map read, or maybe you realize you need to be able to use ice picks. I don't know where I've got this goal from. There's nothing like anything I would do. So you've learned that actually you can't climb the 25 mountains until you've learned how to use ice picks, forks. I don't even know what they're called. That's how much this is quite an interesting example I've picked out of my head. But you're going to make that your goal for next year. So instead of climbing 25 mountains, you're going to have a goal of being able to learn how to confidently use ice picks, so that the year after you can then move this goal to the year after and you will be ready to take it on. And I'm sure there was a much more relevant example that I could have come up with, but it didn't spring to mind. So apparently we're hiking up 25 mountains with ice picks. Anyone up for that in 2025? What's 25 for 25? 25 mountains for 2025. No. So no. Maybe we could all meet at a spa near a mountain. That sounds better. I do 25 spas in 2025. I'm up for that. Let's travel around the world together visiting spas. Much better. So go back to the over 60s rule. Consider anything that is under that 60%. So as long as it's over 60% completed, unless you are deciding it's no longer right for you, you should still be able to get it done. Like feel like that's 60% of, even though we're at that seventh, well, we're in the 8th month now. So where is it? Like a 7%, 70%, 80%. That final run, we always tend to push a bit harder and always tend to get a little bit more done. But again, be realistic with yourself. If you are renovating your house from next month for 3 more months, you might decide that you need yours to be a lot further completed if they're going to happen. But I find the over 60s rule tends to see most people and most goals fairly safe. We've talked about whether you're going to move them, whether they aren't right for you, whether you're going to adjust them. And as I said, you have to pick the thing that's right for those goals. So now we should be left with a set of goals that are at least 60% completed, are still relevant for who we are and how we want to show up in the world, that we're still inspired to do, that haven't been pulled out from under us by life for whatever reason, and need to be adjusted or moved. And we've just got the goals that we are really going to go for the end of this year and that we really want to get done. For me, and I talk about this a lot in the membership, I don't like to count December as a month. December is an entity unto its own, because I love Christmas. So December is family and Christmas stuff, and I don't want to be trying to get anything finished and wrapped up goal-wise in December. Obviously, occasional exception, and I think I was trying to read a book a month or something like that. I'm still going to read my book in December, but on the whole, say I had a goal to write a book, we'll stick with book. I had a goal to write a book. For me, that very much needs to be done by the end of November. I don't want that kind of pressure of a goal in December. Don't mind the rest of the year, but not in December. It is a personal choice for me, but I do also find that a lot of people, even like religious or otherwise, December just seems to be one of those months where lots of things creep in. It's sort of the end of year parties and get-togethers and catching up with friends and family and all those kind of different bits and pieces. It just seems to be one of those months that flies by and disappears, and there's extra bank holidays and what have you. So I would consider looking at it from October, November are the last 2 months you've got to get these goals finished. And unless, like I said, it's something, one of the goals was to do X every month, then you can reconsider those. So looking at the ones that can get done in October, November, from that list, we are going to be breaking them into the steps that you would want to do and then splitting them by month. So this is the only time that I would do this. I prefer to chunk my goals as I go, because as I said, I'm all about like that realistic thing that life changes and life happens. It's nice to have an approximate timeline for your goals when you think it through. But the most I tend to do is quarters. So I'll be like, this is for the first quarter of the year, second quarter, third quarter of the year. It will be completed by the end of third quarter of the year. This is the point where I'm like, right, we're in the final stretch. We've got 2 months left. This is my, I'm going to increase my pace. This is where I'm going to start my sprint. Like, there we go. We're getting a little sporting analogy in there. This is the one where I'm actually going to be like, right, yes. So by the end of October, this has got to have happened. By the end of November, this has got to happen. It could even be that you want to break it down further. So you're like the first half of October, the second half of October, the first half of November, the second half of November, depending on how many steps you've got to break those into. You want to be looking at the individual steps. As always, what I clarify a step as is something that doesn't feel overwhelming at present. And so if you are in a good, strong mental space, and actually the year's been kind to you and you're like, yes, I'm so pumped to do this, you might be able to make your steps slightly bigger. If you've had a really tough year, or you have a really tough time at the moment, you've got some tough things coming up, and you're just freaking exhausted by life, make your steps smaller. You need to feel not, and it can be, if you make big steps, you might be having a great day today and it all goes to pot tomorrow, in which case you can reduce your steps down. That's fine. You can build your steps back up. All we can deal with is how we are right now. So based on how you are right now, can you handle big steps, or do you need lots of little steps to help get you through to those goals? And that's such a personal choice. It's something you've got to decide for yourself on how you are feeling in this moment. And so break them down, reasonable steps, split them by October, November, unless it's something that has to be in December. I'm all about reducing December's load wherever possible, because I want to sit and eat food, basically. I sit and eat all the way through December, because I don't really like going out to things. So I literally just want to sit and eat and watch all the Christmas movies, listen to all the Christmas songs. But having those clear benchmarks for those goals, having ones that you want to feel challenged, so not confident that you're going to complete. You want to kind of have a little bit of that nervous energy that makes you actually go for it, makes it feel a little bit challenging. The majority of us, some to more of extremes than others, like myself, but the majority of us, if it's a little bit more challenging, are much more likely to go for it. If it seems too easy, often we just sit back and think, tortoise and the hare. The hare, it wasn't a challenge for the hare. So he lolled back and lost. So I quite like to feel like I'm a little bit tortoise in most situations. That I'm still a little bit of a push, and I'm going to be a lot more inspired to actually get on with doing the thing. Otherwise, sometimes you just leave it right to the end of November, and then you don't enjoy the process either. Like, it's really easy, it's fine, I'll just throw it in at the end of the year. Enjoy the process too. So make sure you've got which steps you're doing when, and it's feeling that little bit challenging, and that you're not overwhelming your list. So if you lose a couple of goals right now, that's absolutely fine. I can't lie, my looking at my goals list has not happened in August, so I'm completely drawing a blank on where I am with them. I'm actually going to sit down tomorrow and go through this, because the boiler is now not coming tomorrow. Half of the stuff was done today, and the boiler is coming on Monday. So I've got I've got piles of linen everywhere. The loft's insulated, so at least I can put all the other stuff back up in the loft. But I've taken off doors of boiler cupboards, taken off our bedroom door because it sort of blocks part of the boiler cupboards, and I've got to put that back on. but the does free up some of tomorrow. Otherwise I was going to do it at the weekend. So yeah, I'll be going through my goals tomorrow, breaking these all down, these bad boys. But this year for me has thrown up a lot of things that I wasn't expecting. So I'm fully expecting to probably ditch 60% of my goals for the year, move them on to next year, or make adjustments and amendments to make maybe I still want to feel by the end of the year that I've achieved something. So don't think, oh, I've had a tough year, I'm going to get rid of all of them. Maybe just pick one that you like. This is going to be my thing. It's going to be the one that I'm going to get to the end of the year and be like, yeah, I still did this. So there's, I mean, I think reducing my outgoing bills was one of them, which by moving I've done. So I could actually just tick that off and be like, oh, this chaotic period that means I don't know what's going on with life at all, and has actually fixed one of the goals. Any questions on any of that? All smiley faces. As always, if you've got any questions, if you watch back the replay, which will be up within 12 to 24 hours, I get the replay up. I think yesterday's was up within 2 hours because I knew today was going to be carnage with the insulation guys and stuff. So yeah, get it up with 12 to 24 hours. I give myself a nice big window, and then sometimes it's done a lot quicker and sometimes it's done right in the 24th hour. But that's life at the moment. If you get any questions from this or any of the other videos, you can either put me a message. If you have a private message, you can shout out in the WhatsApp group, whatever works best, and I'll be happy to answer them. The rest of the replays 1 through 7 are in the membership, and the 2 file that support, as I say, 2 PDFs, but one's not a PDF. So there's a PDF for part 2 and there's an Excel sheet for part 6. So the PDF for part 2 is in happiness and habits folder, and the Excel sheet for part 6, which was household budgeting, is in time management and planning. I feel like that needs to be split now. I feel like that folder probably needs to be one for time management and one for planning, because that definitely needed to be in the planning folder, but it felt a bit weird to be in the time management folder. It's time management and planning. But we've got so many different documents now. There's so much more in the membership. Like every month there's been more going in. And sometimes I just create something and pop it in there. Someone will find this at some point. It'll be helpful. But just sort of a spontaneous, helpful PDF that I put together and just pop in the membership. So it's always worth having a bit of a nosy through there, and a bit of a nosy back through the previous videos from other events and what have you in there too. I tend to leave, so like the September reset ones, I'll leave till closer to the next September reset, and then I take the old ones down and pop ready for the new ones to come up. And same with like the yearly goal setting and things. That will be our next run of workshops, is November. So we've got our monthly goal setting in September, which hopefully if you've been through tonight's one, you will have most of that sorted. You'll know what you need to get done in October. October's, we will have our monthly goal setting for November, and then November is our yearly goal setting. So we think about, I always do my yearly goal setting in November so that we can get going for December. We can, if we need anything specific to achieve our goals next year, we can put it on our Christmas list for Father Christmas, all those kind of things. Very important. So yeah, I always do setting goals in November. Don't wait till January. January, we've all got that like momentum and like energy to go after, and we waste it on creating the goals. And then also I find we're unrealistic with ourselves. It's like going to the supermarket hungry. Planning your goals in January is going to the supermarket hungry. I've only just realized that. Very true. I will love you and leave you. Thank you so much for joining me on this crazy September reset ride. Need to finalize a couple of my bits. Make sure you're looking back through like what we talked about, setting up the routines, that thinking about it, letting it mull over. It's not a sprint to get all of the things done from all of the sessions. You can go back over the videos, think a few things through, and make sure that you are going into the last bit of the year ready and raring, with the best support system you can possibly have. Look after yourself, and I will see you soon. Ta ta for now.